I'd like to introduce Stephanie Hacker from the Carbon Trust.
Hello there, everybody. My name is Stephanie Hacker. I've been working at the Carbon Trust for the past 9 months. My primary role is working on the Green Business Fund. So today I just wanted to talk about the impacts that startups can have on generating significant energy and cost savings and making significant steps towards decarbonising the economy. So just a brief overview about the Carbon Trust. We are a company, an organisation that works with a plethora of different members. We work with the public sector, the private sector, and supporting governments in making steps towards creating a sustainable environmental future. We work on creating certifications, product footprinting, but a big part of what we do is working with small businesses, enabling them to make significant steps towards creating an energy efficient business. We have a wide range of talented colleagues who work across the world in several different offices in order to try and create a sort of global approach and response to our mission. So just before we get into it, I think it's important to outline the business case for action and the impact that startups can have. A lot of businesses spend a lot of money retrospectively implementing these energy efficiency changes, but startups, you can really have the influence to be able to integrate this from the beginning and make it a core part of your business, not having to convince people that it's something important and something that we should all be a part of. So yeah, this can be a real opportunity to make some significant cost savings. A cut in 20% in the energy cost represents the same as the bottom line increase in sales. So especially for a startup, every penny counts, and it can really make a difference between breaking even and making that profit. And behaviour change as well, like I sort of briefly mentioned, that lots of people have to convince colleagues and members of their organisation that it's something that businesses should be a part of, whereas as a startup, you've probably got a small employee base. So everybody can be a part of creating sort of energy profile and statement for your business. So this is really important things that you can do from the absolute outset. It's also something that clients and customers have an increasing demand for. Lots of people want to buy sustainably, efficiently, and we'll be asking of the businesses that they're purchasing goods or services from, what is their sustainability policy, how do they influence their supply chain, so on and so forth. So for a startup, trying to make your way within whichever business that you're working within, this can have like a really standout IP, and this can be your selling point, your marketing perspective, to attract an increased client base. And again, have the potential to influence your supply chain, whoever you're purchasing the goods and services from, to expect them to adhere to these standards as well. So there's a real business case for action, both within creating an environmentally sustainable future and within the cost savings of your business. So today, I think it's just important to highlight a few, may seem very simple, but can be instrumental in making the changes efficient and effective. So we'll start off by outlining an energy statement, what this is, why is it important, and how to make it effective. We'll then go on to having a look at creating an energy efficient working environment, so whether that's support renting an efficient space, or if you already have an office environment or a warehouse or a factory in which you're manufacturing from, how to procure the right equipment to make this energy and cost efficient. Excuse me. And then we'll look at metering and monitoring. So once you have established your space, looking at the energy efficiency of that space, and how to to make sure that you're keeping on top of targets that you're set within your energy statement. And finally, behaviour change. This is something that can be really important for businesses. And again, startups have the unique opportunity of being able to handpick and select and to really implement these efficiency measures from the very beginning. So energy statements. Why are they important? Lots of businesses and companies worldwide are expected to have a sustainability policy, and this can is something that is really expected from a top-down approach. From governments are expecting it of businesses, and customers are requiring this of those who they're purchasing from. So really something instrumental when you're setting up all the aspects of your startup to make sure that you are in line with this and creating your energy statement. It's also useful that it can provide a clear direction and a focused message going forward, that you can get all members of the organisation from your cleaner to the CEO to make sure that everybody's on board with the same programme, and they can be instrumental in providing new ideas in order to create an environment which everybody is happy to work with and to create significant cost savings. Again, you can also publicize this on your website and influence your supply chains and give your business that unique standout feature, which can really attract businesses and customers going forward. So an energy statement can be comprised of a few pages, which just outlines the clear intent. It needs to it needs to be relevant to your organisation and the sector. So somebody who is working within manufacturing and production would have different things that they felt that were important and relevant to their business than an office space or somebody that was working within services. In manufacturing, would focus a lot on supply chain. Who are they getting their goods from, their raw materials, whereas an office may look at the sustainability of their direct environment. So yeah, it just needs to be relevant to your organisation as a whole. Again, all employees need to be involved in this because it really does make the difference between whether it's effective or not. So what does an effective statement look like? Has a clear expression of your organisation's output and a commitment to raising awareness with all staff. You can have a little read through there on your own, but some key weaknesses is that they're not supported by senior management. So lots of times it's one person within an organisation feels that it's important and sort of tries to take this mission on its own, but it's not supported by other members of staff, which can really make a difference as to why, as to if or not it is effective. Often they're out of date, not relevant to the current aspects of your organisation, so they need to be updated as you go and you progress and you expand your startup. Obviously, progression within a startup can be quite rapid. There's lots of changes early on, just making sure that it is constantly relevant to your organisation. And delivering an action plan. It's all very well creating this statement, but making sure that it is put into practice really does influence how effective or not it is. So that's just a brief overview of how to create your statement. And once you've got your statement and you've outlined what aspects you feel are important, and one of this will be creating an efficient workspace, you can actually look at creating that efficient, a sustainable environment for everybody to be working in. So we're just going to have a look at ideally renting an efficient space, whether that's an efficient office or warehouse or factory, and how to do this. And then if this isn't the case, calculating the efficiency of your current equipment to help identify areas which could be retrofitted and creating your buying smart strategy. So when it comes to procuring an existing efficient business environment, it's important to look at the energy efficiency. Ideally, renting or purchasing an environmentally efficient space for products and services it's a lot easier if this is all done for you. So there are different aspects or different programs that you can have a look at. One is called LEED. It's the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's the most widely used building rating system, and it provides certification for a business, for a building that you potentially want to rent from. They'll procure their energy from renewable energy sources. You'll have sort of up-to-date, cutting-edge LEDs. Everything is sort of monitored and done for you, so to speak. So they are more expensive to rent, generally 2% more expensive. However, the considerable savings that you'll make over time, and a lot of the hassle of having to retrofit is removed. So this is definitely something that I think that is worth having a look at. Similarly, there's Bream, does a very similar thing to the LEED. And at the Carbon Trust ourselves, we have the low carbon workplace scheme, where we buy and renovate office spaces to make them energy efficient. So there are places out there that you can rent from the offset. And when we talk about metering and monitoring later, this is something that's really key, because everything is done virtually online. You can have a look at all your energy expenditure and really quickly identify areas of weakness or certain times of the day where you've got high energy spend, and it saves you having to trawl through energy bills. There's also Workspace. They are an organisation who we've worked with, who have a really good sustainability policy. So don't be afraid to ask whoever you're renting from, your landlord, to see if they do have a sustainability policy, or to have a look at the existing utility bills, and just to get an idea of the baseline of the space that you're going to be renting from. If you don't have any autonomy over your working environment, you rented from a standard building, standard office space, or a standard warehouse, there is pressure that you can put on your landlord if you have any specific requirements. Really simple things, providing recycling bins, food waste, converting, changing lights, or if you work in an area which is easily accessible by bike, ensuring that these have bike storage space. The more pressure that you put on these lenders, then the more effective that they can be, and the more standardized this approach can become. Just to give you a brief overview, if you were to look at an office, and you can have a breakdown of the expenditure, a considerable amount comes from the heating and hot water, then the lighting and the office equipment. So again, this stuff might sound really basic, but it really can make a difference in terms of those cost savings and those energy savings. So we're just going to have a look over the different technological areas to consider. So when it comes to lighting, I work on the Green Business Fund, and supporting SMEs to change technology types in order to create effective energy savings within their organisation. And converting to LEDs has the biggest payback and the biggest impact on those cost savings when you compare the utility bills year on year. So again, it may sound simple, but having a look, are the blinds open? Most offices only need a lux level of 500, and often we feel that we need more light, we want the lights on. Some people are quite particular about it, but I think just educating staff that 500 is the lux level that you need. You can get apps on your phone and they can tell you that the lux level of the room that you're in. So obviously natural light is the most ideal, even if just from a health perspective, it's a lot more healthier than having the lights on. So that's something that's really useful. A switch is easy to locate, they're easily accessed, and people bringing their own lamps. Again, it's challenging those behaviors, and really simple stuff, sensors, timers, and out of hours use, making sure that somebody's responsible at the end of the day for turning the lights off, can really make a difference, and save a lot of money. When it comes to heating, again, making sure that everybody in the office is on board with the heating, not opening windows when you've got the heating on full whack. Really simple stuff. Portable heaters are a big no-no. They are incredibly energy intensive and provide very localized sources of heat, which don't really make too much of a difference. So that is definitely something that you can implement from the offset and put into your energy statement, that these would be banned within the office space or something similar. Having a look at cooling, just general maintenance of the cooling units. Are these working together with the heating system? Not having both on at the same time. Having monitoring in place, and again, educating staff, providing training, giving somebody the responsibility to do this. I delivered a Workspace workshop last week, and one of the attendees said that they couldn't open any of the windows because they had the windows painted shut within their office space. So really, stuff like that can really make a difference. In terms of you can see it on your utility bills when all of this stuff is done effectively. Again, photocopiers and printers. If you are doing a lot of sort of office administrative work, then ensuring that everybody has an individual login for those photocopiers, so that there's an element of accountability. People aren't excessively printing. Having vending machines or having a light above a vending machine, just areas where lighting doesn't need to be, and these don't really need to be on constantly, and making sure that the monitors are turned off at the end of the day and the computers are switched off. Again, at the same workshop, they hadn't turned their computers off for a year because it took too long to load up in the morning. So again, even if that's just from a security perspective, you need to be turning your computers off, turning monitors off. This can really make a difference to a startup, especially to create those energy efficiency savings and those cost savings. So once you have established your property, it's really useful to look at how efficient the equipment is within that space. So this can seem sort of trying to break down the maths, so it doesn't seem as overwhelming if you're new to this. I only learned this since I've been working here, so this is something that can be really useful in identifying areas in which your equipment is not as efficient as it could be. So most pieces of equipment come with the power rating, and this is expressed in the kilowatts. So in order to calculate the kilowatt hours, which is, if you look on your utility bills, and we do have some resources that help you to understand your utility bills, this is how consumption is normally expressed within kilowatt hours. So say that your computer monitor has a power of 6 kilowatts, and it is run for 4 hours. You can then calculate your estimated consumption of the kilowatt hours, and then this will be reflected within your energy bills. So just having a basic understanding of this can really make a difference between providing a business case for creating these energy statements and creating an environmental policy, because people can see the facts and figures, and this can really support your case in creating a sustainable environment for people to work in. So then if you want to calculate the cost of the running hours of this equipment, you can times the kilowatt hours by the unit price. Again, this is expressed on your utility bills. It's normally 0.16 or 12, depending on who your provider is, and this can help you calculate the cost of equipment, again supporting that business case for making and implementing these changes. I think it's just really important to recap at this point how doing these simple things from the very beginning can have a huge impact on supply chains that are bigger than yourself. You may see, I'm a startup, I don't have any influence. However, businesses pay huge amounts of money at the moment, especially to create these energy policies, to make these changes, to get products certified, because there is a huge pressure from consumers. So startups have the unique opportunity that you're at the very beginning of your business journey, and you can really implement these steps from the beginning in order to you're ahead of the curve. You've got the opportunity to really make a difference now, rather than spending huge amounts of money down the line to retrospectively implement these changes. So asking your suppliers what their energy credentials are, and actually you can choose certain options in how you'd like to have these products sourced to you. Again, talking about these to your consumers. I have a startup. We have our energy policy is X, our sustainability policy is Y, and this gives you a unique selling point to the consumer. So if you aren't able to procure your office space from the beginning and to rent a energy efficient space, you can then, and you've now identified which areas of your equipment are the least efficient, you can then have a look at implementing your Buy Smart strategy. So this basically looks at where you can get your products from. We have an energy technology list, which is a sort of government initiative which works with BEIS, and we support on what has a list of technology which is particularly energy efficient, and you can also get tax breaks from purchasing and using these products. So again, these can create some substantial cost savings for your business. Maybe an additional expense at first, doing this sort of retrofitting, but in the long run, well, immediately you can see the difference on your energy bills. You can see that cost saving. It doesn't take a certain amount of time to see the payback. You can see it immediately with a lot of these transitions. You need to make sure that your Buy Smart strategy is integrated into your organisation's all over purchasing policy. And again, getting this backed by senior management can make a real difference. Taking a whole life cycle approach, so looking at the cost benefits long term and not just immediately, can make a real difference. Lots of these products have low energy standards and labels, and certain ratings which can really inform your decision-making processes. And again, at the Green Business Fund, you have the opportunity to speak to our experts with specific energy questions or transition questions in order to make your environment, your working environment, sustainable. So that's something that we can support you on if you're unsure which products to buy. So then once you've established your working environment and you've potentially made some changes to your office equipment, it's important to have a look at metering and monitoring. Creating a database of information can be really useful in tracking your energy expenditure long term and having a look at the cost savings to identify, again, further into the future, in line with your energy statement, how to be the most sustainable business that you can possibly be. So we're just going to go through why it's important, how to collect it, and how to analyse the data once you have collected it. So it is fundamental that all organisations collect energy data. Again, huge businesses at the moment are spending loads of money to backlog and identify their expenditure over the past few years. Startups have the unique opportunity that you can do this from the very beginning, which will save so much money in the long term, and can be really useful in making these significant cost savings, which are vital to your businesses. We have specific guides which are really useful to have a look at into how to really understand the metering and monitoring sort of sector, and how to implement it effectively. And this again needs to be in line with the policy of your organisation. So how to collect it? Accuracy is really key. Often figures from your utility companies are over or under exaggerated in comparison to actual use, and therefore it's important to take regular meter readings rather than relying on the figures provided by utility companies. How frequently you collect your meter readings really depends on your circumstances. Monthly monitoring has been the norm, but it can be, it's not as effective as creating those weekly readings. You need to get the granulation of the data specific to your organisation. So have a chat to your colleagues and see which they feel is best, really. But ideally, we'd recommend taking a weekly collection and then logging this accordingly. And having somebody that's responsible for this can really make a difference and make sure that it is done regularly. So once you've established this database, then it's really important to start to analyse it. Often useful to visualise the data, creating simple graphs of your energy consumption and demonstrating the trends of the energy use is really effective in drawing insights. Again, linking this back to your energy statement and your company's policy to then inform. It needs to be a constant sort of feedback loop with all of the things that we're talking about today are heavily integrated with one another. The longer the period of data collection, the more effective the insights. And comparing year on year can remove the influence of the external drivers. So comparing June 2018 with June 2019, when the weather conditions can be similar, hopefully we'll have a nicer summer as we did last year. So it can really provide that consistency within the data and remove those external factors such as the weather. And be really useful in providing a benchmark of your consumption against other businesses. So at the Carbon Trust, we have a carbon footprinting calculator, and this you can input some quite simple data into this tool, and it can have a look at other organisations who are at a similar size and capability and see what the average consumption broken down into the different technologies have. So this can be really useful in providing a business case. Other businesses are doing this, therefore we need to be in line in order to be competitive. And B, to track internally how well you're doing. So yeah, this is definitely something that's worth having a look at. So then finally, behaviour changes. Again, with a startup, hopefully there's not many, you might not have many employees that you need to convince that being a sustainable, viable business is really important. But actually getting everybody on board with this really can make a huge difference in how it can be effective. So again, it's such a simple thing, but actually can make a huge difference in whether it's implemented or not, is by having everybody on board. Most businesses could save 5% from their energy bills through behaviour measures. Again, with a startup, really does make a difference between whether you make that profit or not, and you can get your business off the ground. So making sure that everybody is in line with the energy statement is really important. Again, startups are in a unique position as essentially there are no existing behaviours to change. Therefore, you can shape your organisation's culture from the very beginning. It needs to be integrated with other elements of good practice and part of an integrated approach to energy management. The best way to raise energy awareness in your organisation, it depends on your own circumstances really, but and some companies are more advanced than others, as some individuals will be less energy aware than their co-workers. However, there are some really simple steps to creating a higher level of energy awareness. So research and planning, you'll need to have established the areas of weakness in your business, which hopefully, if you followed the previous steps, you'll be able to implement. For example, you may have noticed you have high electricity bills within the winter, as certain individuals are interfering with the thermostat, cracking up the heating, it's not being turned off at the end of the day. So this may be your focus, and therefore you can deliver the right communication channels and target your messages accordingly. So you could turn this into some sort of a fun organizational day, whereby there's a sort of competition between different departments or internally who is the most sort of energy efficient a colleague, and then providing the sort of reward strategies for this, monitoring initiatives that you do implement in order to sort of track how effective they are, and how many, to look at the cost savings that are implemented from this, and the energy savings that can be really useful. If people feel that they're rewarded for this behaviour, it just becomes habitual. If you were to have a specific low energy output one month, having staff parties, initiatives, staff drinks can really be influential. At the Carbon Trust, we have a medium called Yammer, which is a sort of colleague social media page, and even if you were to use something like this to have like daily reminders of how to be an efficient employee, can be really useful in making sure that it is integral to your organisation. So just to reiterate the impact this can have, a lot of what I've gone over may seem very simple, very easily adaptable and adoptable into your organisation. However, people still don't do them, and I think it's just important to hit home. It is doing the simple stuff well that can really make a difference. So you can just look here at some of the facts and figures in how instrumental it can be into how effective your startup can really be, in both making those cost savings and contributing to a sustainable future for us all. Again, you've done all of this work, you've put all the effort in, shout about it. So tips for green marketing is let people know what you've done and what you're planning to do, whether you get in touch with a local newspaper or the power of social media, get onto Instagram and talk about the sustainability policy of your organisation. You can put once you've created your statement, you can put verbatim on your website, and this really is a unique aspect of hopefully the startups of this time, that this is not something additional. This is the basic, and this is what we should be expecting from all businesses. If you produce certain products, you can get these footprinted and certified in order to say my product is carbon neutral or complies with these standards. And you can also get your building certified, such as the ISO 14001, to say that your company works to international standards. This can be really effective in attracting new and prospective clients going forward. So at the Carbon Trust, we have a plethora of guides and resources targeted for small businesses. We really recognise the impact that you can have on making this significant cost and energy savings, and therefore I think this webinar gives you a brief overview of a few of the things you can do, and if you needed to have anything in more specifics, you can have a look at our guides and publications and also our upcoming webinars. So just a brief overview of what the Green Business Fund is. It's a scheme which supports small and medium-sized businesses in England, Wales and Scotland. And we provide a combination of advice, training, equipment to these businesses within the sector, and a wide range of services which you can access via our website. There's a list here in the middle of who is eligible. So schools, sole traders, charities. However, we don't support domestic properties, public sector or new builds, but other areas of our organisation do. So don't let that stop you from implementing these changes. In order to be accepted, or in order for us to support you, you need to comply with 2 out of 3 criteria, just on the right hand side. And you can do this via our website through application forms. We have some upcoming workshops. They last roughly 2 hours. They're hosted around the countries by supporting companies and organisations. So it is worth having a look to see if there's any near you coming up. And actually you get to speak to our technical experts and representatives on how the Carbon Trust can support you in aligning with the mission. We offer opportunity assessments, so these can be done remotely or on site. So one of our engineers could come to your site, have a look at your energy output, and help to recommend or identify the top 3 energy saving recommendations. This is a completely free service, and can be really useful in creating a business case for your organisation to make the transition in, say, adopting a new technology, creating retrofitting within your organisation. It's a really useful thing that we can provide for you, and then going on from this, once you have developed your business case, they can support you with implementation advice, so how to make this transition, how to implement the new heating and ventilation system which you've identified is currently inefficient. They can help you and support you to do this. You don't necessarily have to do, they're different from one another. You don't have to do the opportunity assessments and then the implementation advice, but it kind of works better when you go through that whole process with us. Again, you obviously all attended this current webinar. We do have some more technical webinars coming up. Next week, my colleague is delivering one regarding commissioning a project for your small business. So if this webinar has given you any ideas on how to do this, or if you go away and start to identify areas of weakness within your organisation, then that could be really useful in how to commission that project. And again, a wide range of publications. I'll be publishing one soon regarding what the content that we've talked about today, so that you can look at that going forward, and there's a wide range of publications on our website for you. So again, this sort of goes over the benchmarking tool which I've spoken about, and this is in line with the greenhouse gas protocol. It is really useful just to give you a basic understanding of where your company's at and how this compares with other members or other organisations within a similar field to you, and it can be accessed on your smartphone and your web browsers. And this could be something that you could get in part of the behaviour change. This could be a way to include all members of your organisation and something that they can all get on board with. So thank you for listening. I hope it was informative and have given you some ideas in order to kickstart your startup's sustainability journey. But if you have any questions, I would welcome them, and we'll hopefully try and answer them for you.
We're just going to take a couple minutes to gather some questions, and if anyone has any more, feel free to send them in. So we'll be right back in just a minute.
Thanks everybody for your questions. There was one regarding the ground level rural communities and how to collect energy data. If you could just give me an email. My email address is at the end of these slides. My colleague actually has some really good ideas and is very passionate about working with rural communities in creating energy efficient businesses. So I can speak to them after this webinar and really give you some specific advice on that, because I do think it is really important, and especially to give you some specific advice, because obviously the data collection for rural communities would differ from urban areas such as where we are now in London. So I will get back to you on that one. The slides are available after the webinar. That's absolutely fine. And best practices in terms of raising awareness, such as energy champions, and any examples of successful campaigns. So yeah, having an energy champion can be really effective. So nominating one person within your organization who is solely responsible for this. And we have another program called Start to Act. And this has some really useful resources, which again, if you drop me an email, I can forward these resources on to you. Successful campaigns, I think, not necessarily who I've heard of from in small businesses, but big businesses that we've worked with have provided sort of monetary incentives. So if you were to use our benchmarking tool, you could have a look at how your organization compares to other businesses within your field. And then if you say month on month, if you were to meet the benchmark for these other organizations, you can provide sort of monetary incentives, holidays, if there was like a vouchers for local restaurants. This has been really effective with large organizations. So I think there are things that could easily be implemented within small businesses. But again, drop me an email and I can forward you some resources and speak to my colleagues if they know of any specific small and medium-sized businesses which have done this. So yeah, if you were also having a look on our Green Business Fund page and you didn't feel that your business was big enough or met the criteria of a small, medium-sized business, I definitely think it's useful looking at the Start to Act scheme. It's a EU Horizon 2020 scheme and has some really, really useful free resources on there which you can use within your startup. And again, all of that information is solely focused on startups, so it is specific to you and will be relevant for your organization.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending, and we'll send the slides around. It will probably be next week after the Easter holidays. So thank you for your attendance, and I hope everyone has a great day.